Parents, do you want your kids to think, speak, and stand up for themselves in these crazy times when there are so many social pressures? The key is for them to develop inner power and to have a strong sense of self. This is not taught at school, and it's not something you can lecture your child into becoming either. It is modeled by you. So if you want to set your child up for success, you're willing to look at your relationship with them, and especially if you are ready to make changes with the way that you relate to yourself, then stick around. There are 3 things that you'll want to master that will give your child a huge advantage when dealing with negative peer pressure, and you will grow into your own inner power along the way. Hello friends, I am Brandy with Falcon Healing Arts, where I help women and their families heal in body, heart, mind, and spirit through Chinese medicine, energy and shamanic healing, and human design. And if you've been on this channel for a while, you've probably seen my son in a few videos. I've been homeschooling him for 6 years now, and long story short about that, we pulled him out of kindergarten at his request when he was experiencing some bullying and other social challenges. He knew that homeschooling was my heart's desire. It was our plan B, and so when we pulled him out, it was a fairly easy switch for us to start homeschooling. But don't worry, this is not a video about homeschooling at all. I'm telling you this so that you understand that my son's emotional well-being has always been my number 1 priority. And I understand this topic of peer pressure because of my experience with attachment parenting, my interest in Gabor Mate's work, and child development studies as part of my work as a pediatric Chinese medicine practitioner. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing examples from our family life as well as what I've learned in order to help you and your child. Even though my son is really sensitive, he has been extremely resistant to peer pressure. And this is something I've always really admired about him. He's unique in many ways. I would even say he's pretty eccentric. Definitely walks to the beat of his own drum and shows up fully authentic in his relationships. But even these last 2 years have been very difficult for us. So even us homeschoolers, he still has a lot of friends that he's met at classes. We have neighborhood friends. He still has quite a big peer group around him. And it's been especially difficult with all the polarity and discord around the COVID lockdowns, masking, vaccinations. Again, we have experienced this too, like all families, of needing to make a choice and sticking with that choice. But even with all this added pressure these last 2 years, he stayed really strong in his values and has never caved to any pressures that he's felt uncomfortable with. And I do think it's largely because of the way he's been raised, and because I'm mindful of doing these 3 things that I'm going to be sharing with you now. These are just suggestions. I know all of us moms can be a little sensitive about the topic of parenting. When we reflect back on ourselves, sometimes it can make us feel bad. These suggestions are to help you have a stronger relationship with your child so they are more emotionally resilient. So please just take them in, decide if they're appropriate for you or not, and if you are feeling that you really need this help, then try to follow them to the best of your ability, and definitely reach out to me if you have any questions. To build your child's inner strength and to resist peer pressure, you need to have a stronger bond with your child than they have with their peers. Friends are important, absolutely, but your relationship with your child is number 1. And if your child doesn't listen to you, if they don't respect you, if they're afraid of you, then you are not going to be a huge help help to them with resisting peer pressure. However, you can turn this around at any point. So even if you have an older child, a tween like I do, or a teen, it's definitely not too late. Just get to know your child. Participate in the things that they're interested in. I highly recommend that you get the book Hold On to Your Kids by Gabor Mate and Gordon Neufeld if you need further convincing that this is important. This book has many suggestions on how you can heal your relationship with your child and to prevent them from being too peer identified. So peer identification is the term for when your child looks to their friends for support and advice more than they do with you. If they are strongly peer identified, this makes them very vulnerable to peer pressure. So to prevent that, you need to find a way to reconnect. And in order for them to feel comfortable leaving the crowd, they'll need to love themselves. They'll need to trust themselves and to feel comfortable being fully authentic. When your child loves and trusts themselves, it doesn't matter what other people think. They can't be persuaded to do something in order to be more cool. They won't follow what someone else says because they think that that person has better judgment than they do. But to develop love and trust, your child needs to feel it from you. They need to feel that they are lovable and that they are trustworthy. So show them that you love them unconditionally, whether they have done a good job at something or not. Don't hold back your love as punishment. Allow them to make their own child-appropriate decisions about things. And when they've made a decision without labeling the consequence as being good or bad, just point out if they got their desired result or if they learned a really valuable lesson instead. Find a way to teach them about self-growth, about constantly improving themselves that doesn't focus so much on mistakes in the past, about things that may bring about regret and doubt about their abilities. Encourage them to use their intuition, to trust their gut feelings, and make decisions on that. It's okay. Again, we work with the consequences, not labeling them as good or bad, because it's unhealthy when they're always needing proof from a higher authority. And this step is one that you will need to model too. You cannot show up fully for your child if you're not showing up fully for yourself. If you don't love and trust yourself, you can't teach that to your child. There's always going to be a gap where they're like, I'm not sure what you mean because you're not displaying it for me. I don't know what that means. And when you do have this inner love and trust, then what you're teaching them is just an extension of yourself. Modeling is the easiest tool in parenting. And the third and last here is that they need to establish healthy boundaries. How? Again, this is about you and your boundaries, what you're teaching their child so they have an example of what they can do with other people. So let's reflect. Are you always available for everyone? How do you guard your self-care time? When someone asks you a personal question that makes you uncomfortable, how do you answer? Your child sees and feels all of this. My family understands how important my self-care and spiritual practices are. They would never dare to discount it. Even though they don't really understand what I'm doing, they don't do it themselves, they do understand why I do it, why it is so important to me. So this is an energetic boundary that I have established. And my son has adopted his own personal boundaries. We respect his space. We don't make fun of his hobbies. In our family, we respect the ways that we're different. I'm even very different from my husband too. So we all have some independence here in this family unit. And when we cross a boundary with our son, He tells us about it. He makes us know that it's not okay. And we give him a lot of space to express these feelings. And if you're doing the same with yourself and your family, then it'll be so much easier for your child to establish boundaries like this with their friends and other children. They won't tolerate being talked to disrespectfully. They won't be persuaded to do things they don't want to do. And they'll have the courage to speak up when needed. And honestly, I feel like we need to be encouraging our children to speak up with adults as well. So even with teachers in the classroom, your child should be able to disagree respectfully. And this is for the few who bring in politics, activism, or something else that your family is uncomfortable with. Your child needs to be able to speak up against this, or to at least tell you that they're uncomfortable and for you to look into it. They need to feel safe confronting adults who are abusing their power and influence over children. I have even more suggestions than this, but then the video would be really long, and I definitely don't want you to feel like this is a lecture. Again, these are suggestions that you can explore for yourself that will hopefully benefit your child. They'll benefit you as a parent and hopefully also benefit you as an individual. This is part of ancestral healing. When you can tap into your own authentic nature, your own inner power, and you are passing on this greatness to your child. If you want to develop your own personal power more, a great place to start would be to take my Free Your Authenticity 5-day challenge. You'll get the lessons daily to your email inbox and have plenty of time to practice and integrate. I'll put the link to join in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with a friend who could use this support. Consider subscribing to this channel if you want more holistic wellness videos. And speaking of that, here are 2 more that you can check out that will help you on your healing journey. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Well wishes, friends.